Picture two retirees with the same net worth. One pulls into the golf club in a brand new luxury SUV, keeps a second house near the beach, and has monthly payments scattered across 5 different accounts. The other drives a 6-year-old sedan, rents a house by the ocean for 1 month each winter, and looks almost boring on paper. 5 years later, the second retiree may be the wealthier one. Wealthy retirees do spend money. They travel, help family, eat well, and pay for comfort. But the ones who stay wealthy are unusually careful about purchases that create permanent costs, limit flexibility, or exist mainly to impress other people. These are 7 things financially secure retirees almost never buy without thinking very carefully first. And number 4 can quietly cost more than a luxury car. Number 7, a brand new luxury car just because they can afford it. A polished showroom, soft leather seats, a giant digital dashboard, and a salesperson offering coffee can make an expensive car feel like a reward for 40 years of work. And sometimes it is. But disciplined retirees separate the pleasure of driving the car from the cost of owning it. Those are 2 very different numbers. RR estimated that the average cost to own and operate a new vehicle in 2025 was more than $11,500 per year. Depreciation alone averaged more than $4,300. That is value disappearing while the car sits in the garage. A luxury model can add higher insurance premiums, more expensive tires, premium fuel, larger registration fees, and repairs that seem to require a technician with a laptop and a medical degree. The financially secure retiree often takes a different route. They keep a reliable car longer. They buy a lightly used model after the sharpest depreciation has already happened, or they pay extra for the features they will use rather than the badge other people will notice. Imagine choosing between an $80,000 luxury SUV and a dependable $35,000 crossover. The real difference is not only $45,000 on the day of purchase. It is also the insurance, taxes, financing cost, and depreciation attached to the more expensive vehicle for years. That does not mean wealthy retirees drive miserable cars. It means the car has a job. It should be safe, comfortable, reliable, and enjoyable. It does not need to announce the owner's net worth at every traffic light. And that same logic becomes even more important when the purchase has a roof. Number 6. More house than their retirement needs. A large home can feel like success made visible. There is the formal dining room, the guest wing, the pool, the landscaped yard, and enough storage to avoid making a decision about anything collected since 1998. But every extra room becomes another surface to heat, cool, insure, clean, repair, and eventually renovate. Fidelity suggests budgeting around 1% of a home's value each year for routine maintenance. On a $1 million property, that rough planning number is $10,000 before property taxes, insurance, utilities, major repairs, or help with the yard. A second home multiplies the problem. 2 roofs, 2 heating systems, 2 property tax bills, 2 sets of furniture, and 1 phone call saying the water heater failed while nobody was there. Wealthy retirees sometimes own several properties, of course. The difference is that they usually treat each property as a deliberate financial decision, not an emotional souvenir from a beautiful vacation. They ask how many weeks the home will actually be used. They compare the annual carrying cost with renting a similar place. They think about who will manage repairs. They consider whether the property still makes sense if travel becomes harder in 10 years. That last question matters. A purchase can fit your life at 65 and become a burden at 78. So the wealth-preserving move is often surprisingly simple. Keep the home that supports daily life, downsize when space stops being useful, and rent luxury temporarily instead of maintaining it permanently. Pay for the month at the beach, do not automatically buy the plumbing behind it. That brings us to a purchase designed to make vacation feel permanent. Number 5. Timeshares and prepaid vacation clubs. The sales presentation usually begins with a tropical resort, smiling families, chilled drinks, and a promise that future vacations will finally be easy. Then come the contracts. Timeshares can include annual maintenance fees, booking restrictions, exchange charges, special assessments, and a resale market that may look very different from the original sales pitch. The Federal Trade Commission specifically warns owners not to assume they will recover what they paid paid when they sell. It also warns about companies demanding upfront money to help owners exit. Think about that for a second. The purchase can be difficult to use, difficult to sell, and expensive to escape. A wealthy retiree values options. A timeshare trades options for obligation. You may love the resort today, but retirement can change quickly. Grandchildren move, health changes, a favorite destination loses its appeal. A spouse no longer wants to fly. The contract does not care. Financially secure travelers often prefer to buy each trip separately. They use hotels, short-term rentals, cruises, or points they can control without signing up for a lifetime bill. They may spend more on an individual vacation, but they preserve the right to change their mind next year. Freedom has value, even when it does not appear as a line on a spreadsheet. And now we reach the purchase that looks responsible because it comes with charts, binders, and someone wearing a very expensive suit. Number 4. Financial products they cannot explain in plain English. This is the strongest filter wealthy retirees use. Before buying an investment, insurance product, annuity, private fund, structured note, or advisory service, they want clear answers. What does it cost? When can the money be accessed? What could cause a loss? Is there a surrender charge? How is the person selling it paid? What happens if that advisor disappears next year? A product can be legitimate and still be wrong for a particular retiree. An annuity may provide useful income in one plan and unnecessary complexity in another. An actively managed fund may have a reasonable role, but the fee must earn its place. The problem is not the category. The problem is buying something opaque because the brochure uses the words protection, opportunity, and exclusive. The Securities and Exchange Commission has shown how small annual fees can create large long-term differences. In one of its examples, a 1% annual fee on a $100,000 portfolio, growing at 4% over 20 years, reduced the ending value by nearly $30,000 compared with a 0.25% fee. That is the kind of number that makes accountants cry. Wealthy retirees know fees are paid in two ways. First, money leaves the account. Second, that money loses every future year in which it could have remained invested. So they ask for the total cost in dollars, not only a percentage. They compare alternatives. They read the section of the document designed to be skipped. And when the explanation becomes more confusing after the third question, they walk away. A simple rule helps. If the person selling the product cannot explain how it works, how it fails, and how they get paid, the retiree does not need to sign today. Urgency is a sales tool. Retirement capital should not be rushed. If this way of thinking helps you protect more of what you worked for, subscribe to Smart Money. The goal here is not to make retirement look rich. It is to make retirement remain secure. While all of these purchases look different, they share one feature. They ask you to trade future freedom for a feeling today. Number 3. Status symbols they do not personally value. A designer jacket can be beautifully made. A mechanical watch can be a work of art. A country club membership can create real friendships. There is nothing automatically foolish about luxury. The mistake is buying the symbol without caring about the experience. That is when a retiree starts paying what you could call the status tax. The larger logo, the newest model, the premium membership tier, the constant wardrobe refresh, or the restaurant chosen because other people might be impressed. Wealthy retirees who remain comfortable for decades usually know exactly which luxuries matter to them. One person spends heavily on business class flights because arriving rested improves every trip. Another wears the same watch for 20 years but pays for a personal trainer. Someone else drives an ordinary car and buys excellent theater seats. Their spending looks inconsistent until you see the rule. They pay for value they can feel, not approval they have to imagine. A useful question is, would I still buy this if nobody else ever saw it? If the answer is yes, it may be a genuine luxury. If the answer is no, the item is probably renting someone else's opinion. And there is a more generous form of status spending that can become even more expensive. Number 2, an adult child's entire lifestyle. Successful parents often want to make life easier for their children. They help with education, contribute to a first home, pay for a family family trip or step in during a real emergency. But wealthy retirees rarely stay wealthy by turning themselves into a permanent private bank. Open-ended support can grow quietly. A phone bill becomes rent, rent becomes a car payment, the car payment becomes private school tuition for the grandchildren. Soon the retiree is funding a second household with no clear limit and no end date. The financial risk is obvious, but the emotional risk is worse. When support becomes automatic, gratitude can turn into expectation. Boundaries begin to feel like punishment. Family conversations become negotiations. Disciplined retirees prefer defined help, a specific amount, a specific purpose, a clear date. They make gifts they can truly afford without depending on future market returns or sacrificing their own care later in life. They also understand an uncomfortable truth. Their children can borrow for a house, a business, or education. Retirees cannot borrow more years of financial independence. This does not mean becoming cold or ungenerous. It means helping in a way that strengthens the family instead of creating another permanent obligation. A gift should solve a problem. It should not quietly create a subscription. And that leads to the number one purchase wealthy retirees almost never make. Number one, a lifestyle upgrade financed with consumer debt, a boat with a monthly payment, an RV financed for more than a decade, a luxury vacation carried on a credit card, a kitchen remodel funded by tapping home equity, a new car purchased by focusing only on the monthly number. These purchases all share the same trick. They make an expensive decision feel small by slicing it into payments. Wealthy retirees may use credit cards for convenience or rewards, but disciplined ones generally pay the balance in full. They may use debt strategically for taxes, liquidity, or investment reasons, but that is very different from borrowing to make ordinary consumption look affordable. Retirement changes the math because earned income may be lower or less flexible. A monthly payment that felt harmless during peak working years can become an unwanted claim on Social Security, pension income, or portfolio withdrawals. Debt also removes choices. When markets fall, the payment still arrives. When medical costs rise, the payment still arrives. When the boat sits unused, the payment still arrives. For a retiree, flexibility is a form of wealth. That is why the crucial question is not, can I make the payment? The better question is, would I still buy this if I had to see the full price leave my account today? If the answer changes, the purchase was never comfortably affordable. The financing merely hid the discomfort. This does not mean every retiree must pay cash for every major asset. A low-rate mortgage may fit a thoughtful plan. A short bridge loan may solve a temporary problem. The point is to avoid using debt as permission to consume more than the retirement plan can support. The wealthy retiree protects the gap between what is owned and what is owed. Look back at all 7 purchases, and the pattern becomes clear. The luxury car loses value while demanding higher running costs. The oversized house turns unused space into permanent bills. The timeshare converts one vacation into a long contract. The opaque investment takes money through fees and confusion. The status symbol buys attention that fades. Open-ended family support creates another household to fund. Consumer debt sells today's pleasure in exchange for tomorrow's income. None of these things is automatically forbidden. The danger begins when a purchase creates a long obligation, removes the ability to change direction, or exists mainly to prove that retirement was successful. Financially secure retirees often spend freely on the opposite things: health, time, convenience, relationships, and experiences they genuinely enjoy. Research highlighted by Fidelity has found that social spending, the money that creates opportunities to connect with other people, has a particularly strong relationship with retirement life satisfaction. That makes sense. A dinner with old friends does not need a garage. A family trip does not send a repair bill 5 years later. A cleaner can return hours to your week. A good mattress improves every night. A plane ticket can create a memory without creating a property tax bill. Wealth in retirement is not measured by how many expensive objects enter the house. It is measured by how few unwanted obligations follow you into the next decade. Buy comfort, buy time, buy experiences you will remember. Help people you love with clear eyes and clear limits. But be suspicious of anything that arrives with a glossy promise and leaves behind a permanent payment. That is how retirees stop trying to look wealthy and give themselves a much better chance of staying wealthy.